Making high-stakes decisions rarely comes down to choosing between a good option and a bad one. You are usually weighing complex, competing constraints. In a typical meeting room, these trade-offs get resolved by whoever argues the loudest, or they default to someone's unverified gut feeling. The Alpha Decision Analysis Workspace silences those opinion-based debates. It replaces the open conversation with a strict mathematical framework. Instead of talking in circles, you are forced to define specific criteria, assign them exact weights, and calculate your confidence through a rigid scoring matrix. But translating abstract human priorities into scorable data requires a massive amount of upfront time and cognitive load from everyone involved. Which raises the question, is standardizing your decision process worth the heavy administrative tax it demands? A rigid framework only makes sense if the operational friction required to run it is lower than the cost of making the wrong choice. The workspace runs on the alpha calculation, value delivered relative to execution effort. Score is a weighted average across a 100-point criteria system. Effort is normalized resource cost, scaling a 40-hour baseline. Friction subtracts value based on manual difficulty and score spread penalties. If an option returns a negative alpha, it means it is consuming more resources in effort and friction than it actually delivers in weighted value. By structuring the math this way, teams have to face a specific reality. An objectively brilliant idea is useless if it requires impossible effort and generates massive internal resistance. The first major hurdle in using this tool happens before anyone evaluates a single option. You have to force every stakeholder to agree on the exact weights of the evaluation criteria. Doing this establishes a mathematical baseline for what a successful outcome actually looks like for the project. The immediate trade-off is that this setup phase triggers intense, exhausting philosophical debates before the actual scoring even starts. Once the scoring does begin, the workspace tracks a metric called the score spread. Score spread is the measured variance between how different stakeholders rate the exact same option. This chart shows how the framework treats that score spread as an automatic friction penalty. When stakeholders disagree wildly on an option, the horizontal spread widens, and that option drops directly into a high friction zone, dragging down its final alpha score. This mechanic mirrors operational reality. If a team is highly misaligned on an approach, they will inevitably take longer to execute it, creating project drag. Because of this, project leads can no longer just look at the highest average score and move on. They have to step in and mediate the underlying conflicts the tool just exposed. There is also a strict physical limit to this process. Forcing a team to evaluate more than 5 options across a full matrix causes cognitive overload, and the resulting survey fatigue degrades the quality of the data. The workspace weaponizes team conflict into an unavoidable, quantifiable penalty. To deal with those limitations, the tool includes modular scoring environments, specifically the Team plus Intuition and Solo modes. These modes activate an intuition score. This is a dedicated mechanism where the lead analyst's gut feeling is mathematically injected to account for 15 to 30% of the final outcome. The main advantage here is that it allows accumulated domain expertise to act as a safeguard, preventing purely clinical data from forcing a mathematically perfect but practically flawed decision. The obvious danger is a sanctioned backdoor for human bias. A heavy intuition score can easily override the strict objectivity the framework enforces. The inclusion of the intuition score transforms the framework into a structural harness designed to manage and contain human subjectivity. Once you have a leading option, the Quant Lab provides the ultimate reality check. An option might output a perfect alpha under ideal conditions, but completely collapse the moment it hits real-world variables. To test this, the lab uses 6 parameter sliders to simulate adverse conditions. As multipliers increase, the system recalculates the alpha. You watch a fragile leading option plummet negative, while a secondary choice stays stable. The lab identifies the option most resilient to failure, rather than simply validating the highest baseline score. But giving a team the ability to simulate endless hypothetical disasters comes with a cost. It can easily trigger chronic analysis paralysis, delaying the actual execution of the project. True quantitative confidence flows from identifying the single choice that survives the worst-case scenario. Viewed in full, the Alpha Workspace operates as an organizational behavior tool disguised as mathematics. Its highest value to a company is systematically documenting exactly why a choice was made, rather than just dictating which option won. This flowchart demonstrates why a fast-moving founder or agile manager making operational choices should avoid this tool. The heavy administrative weight of setting up stakeholders, balancing weights, and building friction matrices will fatally stall your momentum. If you are a solo consultant or a strategist, however, you should highly utilize this framework, specifically in solo plus intuition mode. Running initial assumptions through QuantLab stress tests lets you present mathematically validated, defensible recommendations. And if you are an enterprise project lead, this is a mandatory framework for Phase 1 feasibility choices using pure team meeting mode. True mastery of decision analysis requires a framework rigorous enough to objectively prove that your gut feeling was correct all along.